Red dust flew up. The queen of the grasslands was desperate. Behind her, a dark shadow tightened its encirclement like a flesh-tearing storm. Each bite brought her closer to death. When the ruler is attacked from a place she cannot see, what will happen in the final moments of survival? The deadly circle. How does the lioness survive when constantly attacked from behind? Dawn rose in the Serengeti, its cold, sharp light sweeping across the withered yellow grasslands. This land was vast, barren, and cruel, where for 2 days hunger had tormented her pride of lions. In the midst of this vast space, the Queen of the Morning moved alone, separated from the pack. She wasted no time. Hunting alone was a cold, strategic decision. In this scarce season, she, with the absolute experience of a leader, chose stealth to ensure maximum efficiency. Her target was an old, lone wildebeest. It was there too, driven by desperation. The parched grassland forced it to venture in search of the last remaining water source. Its throat was constricted, its eyes dull, its pace noticeably slower than the others. It was the weakest link in the chain of survival. Seeing her prey, the lioness felt no satisfaction or joy, but rather intense concentration and a sense of liberation from gnawing hunger. Hunger had perfected her, leaving no room for error. Her gait was firm, low, decisive, the calculated movement of a predator in control. In that decisive moment, her choked, tormented roar suddenly erupted, signaling the final lunge. She closed in, then a devastating, precise, and ruthless lunge. The prey fell almost instantly under her precise strangulation technique. This was an undeniable affirmation of dominance. There was no doubt about its power. But victory was immediate, while the price was long-lasting. Her breathing became rapid. The sun rose quickly, bringing with it the heat of red dust. Her body began to overheat. She ate hastily, but there was no time to rest. An old scratch from a previous hunt, thought to have healed, was strained, causing her mouth to reopen. The feeling of tension never left her. Hunting, even a successful and brief one, had depleted almost all of her energy reserves needed for the day. The queen had used up all her physical strength to buy her meal. Now she was paying the price with silent exhaustion, an energy debt that would soon become a fatal weakness. The silent exhaustion led her to her most dangerous moment. The sun was high in the sky. The heat oppressive. Just then, the specters appeared. A pack of about 20 spotted hyenas surrounded her. They weren't just looking for food. Their eyes held a deep-seated hatred. This wasn't just a siege for food. It was an old feud, a long-standing sentence fueled by blood and humiliation. Just months earlier, this very lioness had killed their alpha male in a brutal fight over carcass, a public defeat the hyenas would never forget. The pain, the humiliation of being oppressed by their ruler, was etched into their collective minds. The queen's current weakness and exhaustion were the perfect opportunity, a historic moment for them to pay for their accumulated blood debt. They wanted her not just dead, but to die a tormented death. The hyenas began their psychological torture. They moved in a perfect circle, relentlessly, cackling, creating an invisible but destructive pressure. They didn't attack relentlessly. They simply wanted her to endure this torment. The lioness was forced to constantly turn, wasting every last ounce of energy. Each slow turn of her head revealed the burning hatred in the eyes of her pursuers. She roared, trying to reclaim her lost authority, but the only sound that echoed was the hoarse, savage laughter of her opponent. That laughter wasn't joyful, but mocking, a constant reminder of the guilt she had committed, of the utter loneliness she was enduring. The emotional struggle reached its peak. On one side, survival instinct demanded that she conserve energy. On the other, fear and rage compelled her to move, to act. How do you fight against those who never attack directly? Just as her loneliness and exhaustion reached their peak, a roar, far more powerful than her own weak growl, echoed from afar. The lions were coming. The hyenas immediately stopped attacking, listening. The chaos temporarily vanished, replaced by intense tension. The hyenas knew they had to act quickly. They increased the psychological pressure. However, the lion's roar could not grow any louder. They were too late. Perhaps they had lost their way, or encountered another danger. Gradually, the call faded, then fell silent, leaving a void of despair. Salvation had been denied. The queen was left alone, facing fear and the truth that she was completely isolated in this death circle. Exhaustion was her second enemy after the hyenas. The lioness had fought for hours. In these final hours, her body betrayed her, her bones aching under the weight of her own body. Her will to live was a flickering flame, buried under the pressure of pain and helplessness. After so many hours of abandonment, was this her last hope, or merely opportunistic mates approaching to exploit her downfall? The deep-seated loneliness had left her without faith in any escape. The roar suddenly faded, then fell silent, leaving a void of cruel despair. Salvation had been denied. She realized she was completely isolated. The hyenas sensed the decisive moment had arrived. One, overly confident, had moved closer than it was safe. In that moment of ultimate life and death, with death at the very edge of her neck, the lioness spun around, unleashing an unexpected burst of speed, a final spark of survival burning brightly. It was the final, frenzied act of free will, an absolute refusal to accept fate cowardly. She sank her jaws into her opponent's neck and pinned it to the ground with all her remaining strength. The dry, cracking sound of breaking neck bones echoed, the sound of a brutal and bloody victory. The hyenas scattered in shock. The lioness had killed a predator. But the price was too high. Her last ounce of energy had been drained. She stood there, staggering, gazing at her brutal victory, desperate and exhausted. She had no hope left. And then, from the thick darkness, a colossal black shadow suddenly lunged forward with frenzied speed. The outcome was indistinguishable between winner and loser. Was that black shadow a fellow lioness who had arrived in time, or another frenzied male hyena sent to finish her off? The lioness had killed her attacker, but she was exhausted. As the dawn broke above the horizon, the answer still hung in the balance, haunting the viewer with an unspoken question: who would be the last one standing? In a final act of defiance, the lioness swung her leg, not to kill, but as if to tell the savanna that she was still a predator, even at the very edge. That action was the final declaration of a free will, of a queen who refused to willingly bow down. The light, once a symbol of hope, now simply reveals the outcome of a 4-hour battle. A thin morning mist sweeps across the grassland, clinging to the lioness's stiff, dry fur. Will she fall? Will any of the lion prides return in time? On the ground covered with overlapping footprints, Serengeti adds another line to her wordless epic. The decline of power is an inevitable cycle. The strongest are not always the ones who survive the longest. In this world, the survivors are those patient enough, united enough, and cold enough to exploit the weaknesses and loneliness of the rulers. Serengeti never lets a fool fade into oblivion. As the sun rises high, the morning light falls upon the earth as if touching a memory that has not yet cooled. Herds of animals will pass by, breathing in the wind, carrying the lingering scent of a warrior who fought to the end. And somewhere, her children will learn to grow up in this fierce land, where even a queen can one day be brought down by the relentless encirclement of others. That is survival in Serengeti. If today's story moved you with the brutal yet majestic power of nature, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes of this survival journey. Turn on notifications to be the first to watch each new chapter of the wild world. The storms on Serengeti never stop, and the next journey awaits you. See you in the next episode.
Millions of the gentlest creatures of the savanna unite to form an unstoppable wave. Can survival instinct reverse roles, turning the hunted into the terror of the entire wilderness? The cruel migration. Survival instinct transforms the weak into a wave of destruction. As the last rains recede, leaving behind a blazing sun and parched grasslands, an invisible call from the wilderness begins to resonate in the hearts of millions of creatures. Resonate in the heart. The Serengeti savanna is no longer a peaceful refuge, but a starting point for a journey of over 1,000 miles filled with blood and tears. This is the greatest migration on the planet, where the line between life and death is as thin as a breath, and the cruelty of nature will purge the weakest. Breath and the cruelty of nature will. In this arduous journey, wildebeest are no longer solitary individuals. They transformed into a colossal wave of destruction, using sheer numbers to rewrite the laws of the strong and the weak. Over 1.5 million wildebeest, along with hundreds of thousands of zebras and impalas, formed an endless river of life, flowing across the map of survival. They weren't just fleeing hunger, they were racing against time, crossing crocodile-infested rivers and lion-ambush fields. Their strength lay not in their fangs and claws, but in their collective intelligence and the extreme recklessness of those with no other options. When this wave arrived, dust would obscure the sun, and the pounding of hooves would become the most terrifying symphony any predator would fear. Before them lay the Mara River, the final and most treacherous barrier. The murky red waters were not only ferocious due to their force, but also the hiding place of enormous Nile crocodiles, living logs, that had been waiting for this feast for a whole year. The chilling silence of the water's surface contrasted sharply with the simmering panic on the shore. Just one impatient lead antelope charging forward would unleash a massive wave, unstoppable. And that moment arrived. A resounding roar of surging instinct, thousands upon thousands of bodies hurtling down the sheer cliffs. Dust rose high, obscuring the sun, the pounding of hooves against the rock echoing like war drums. At this moment, the antelopes were no longer weaklings. They transformed into a colossal mass of pressure, a dragon of flesh and blood, crushing everything beneath. The crocodiles lunged, devouring the unfortunate victims, but the sheer power of numbers was overwhelming. The antelopes surged over the predators, trampling over each other to advance. Beneath the surface of the river, a horrific scene unfolded. Young animals were swept away by the current. Adults suffered broken legs trapped in the rocks. But the wave behind never stopped. They had no choice. Stopping meant death. Turning back meant death. The instinct for survival transformed fear into a frenzied force, turning gentle creatures into a destructive wave that swept away all obstacles. The Mara River was no longer a body of water. It was a giant pool of blood, where every step onto the other bank was paid for with the lives of thousands lost at the bottom. When the chaotic waves subsided, the Mara River returned to its deadly stillness. The water now carried the breath of death, but on the other bank, a new world had opened up. The survivors stood there, trembling and exhausted, but in their eyes shone a brilliant light of those who had just returned from the brink of death. They had passed through the narrow gate of destiny to set foot in the promised land of lush green grass. However, the steppe has no place for sentimentality. This migration is nature's most brutal and merciless cleansing machine. The old and weak antelopes, the young ones unable to hold on, are left behind, their bodies becoming a source of sustenance for thousands of other creatures, from the satiated crocodiles in the water to the vultures and hyenas waiting on the shore. This is the harsh fairness of the Serengeti. The death of one is the beginning of another's life, and not a single drop of blood is shed in vain. The journey is not yet over. Ahead lie lions ambushing in the tall grass, leopards waiting for a moment of carelessness. But after crossing the river of death, it seems that a steely resolve has formed in the veins of the survivors. They no longer flee in vain. They continued on with unwavering determination, a wave of life still surging, reminding the world that the instinct for survival, when pushed to its limits, creates miracles far beyond the physical realm. After the storm on the Mara River, the lush green savanna welcomed the survivors with an alluring stillness. The powerful instinct for survival forced the animals to set aside their grief and quickly return to their normal rhythm. Wildebeest began to dip their heads into the cool water. Zebras eagerly grazed on the first tender blades of grass. And somewhere, the lucky survivors struggled to stand on their trembling legs. This was a precious moment of rest, a time for them to recover, reproduce, and rebuild their lineage amidst the harsh journey of migration. However, this peace was merely a velvet curtain concealing new dangers. In the dense thickets and towering grasses, the ghosts of the savanna, lions and leopards, began to position themselves. They needed no hurry, for the recent river crossing had helped them identify the most exhausted and vulnerable individuals. Amidst the rustling of the grass and the golden sunlight, a silent battle of wits ensued. While the animals used every moment to eat and rest, their ears never stopped moving. Their noses never stopped sniffing for the scent of claws in the wind. The migration never truly ended. It only shifted from a battle against the water to a game of hide and seek with hidden predators. On this promised land, every blade of sweetgrass was steeped in vigilance, for the predator awaited only a moment of carelessness to turn the rebirthing feast into a new slaughter. Suddenly, a roar tore through the stillness of dawn. A huge lioness leaped out from the bushes, her nose pointed directly at a slow-moving, old wildebeest. The entire herd of wildebeest instantly scattered, millions of bodies scrambling to escape, turning the savanna into a dust earthquake. The pounding of hooves, the screams of terror, mingled with the powerful, predatory roars of the lions. This was a merciless battle for survival. The lions used their absolute speed and strength, targeting the weakest, most isolated wildebeest. Deadly pounces, their dagger-sharp teeth swiftly ending the unfortunate creatures. Blood stained the green grass. Lost cubs were trampled. The old and weak collapsed from exhaustion. The destructive wave of the masses had now become a chaotic mess, where each individual had to fight for survival within the clutches of death. When the dust settled, a few lions had already had their hearty meal. Where each individual but most of the antelopes continued to run. They had lost a few members, but the instinct for survival was stronger than fear. They charged forward, without looking back, leaving behind a scene of devastation, yet an inevitable part of the cycle of life and death. For them, this was not the end, but just another challenge on their journey to the promised land. While the wildebeest herd scattered in panic, the zebra herds chose a different approach. Instead of relying on sheer numbers to overwhelm, zebras are the most organized warriors on their migration journey. With keen eyesight and an absolute sensitivity to danger, they form a solid defensive barrier, where each member is willing to risk their life to protect their kind. A lone lioness, after failing to catch the swift wildebeest herd, shifted her target to a young zebra straying at the edge of the herd. It began to run. But it didn't know it had made the wrong choice. Just as the lioness leaped into the air, its claws poised to sink into the prey's neck, another powerful figure tore through the dust. It was the zebra father. Without fleeing, this majestic giant, with its black and white stripes, unleashed a thunderous kick straight to the predator's chest. A deafening crash echoed across the tranquil savanna. The lion was thrown back, pained and stunned by the fierce resistance of its former prey. Zebras don't just run, they fight. They use kicks with the force of thousands of newtons to break jaws or crush the ribs of anyone who dares threaten the safety of their family. In that moment, the line between hunter and prey is blurred. Survival instinct teaches them not only to flee, but also to become the most formidable warriors when cornered. Once the threat is overcome, the zebra herd quickly regroups, rubbing against each other in silent comfort before continuing their majestic march. The journey still holds its own dangers, but for zebras, survival is not just about crossing a river or escaping claws, but about maintaining the bond between individuals within the herd. They pressed on, proud and unyielding, proving that on this harsh step, intelligence and courage are sometimes stronger than even the sharpest claws. The 1,000-mile journey is not only about death, but also the breeding ground for the most wondrous creations of nature. When the herd set foot on the promised land of southern Serengeti, a true explosion of life began. In just a few short weeks, hundreds of thousands of antelope and zebra foals were born simultaneously, transforming the steppe into a giant nursery between heaven and earth. This was the harshest yet greatest moment of survival instinct. The young had no time to be weak. They had to stand firm on their trembling legs just minutes after birth. In a land where predators lurk in every shadow, learning to run before learning to nurse is the fundamental lesson for survival. A new cycle begins. These tiny creatures suckle their mother's sweet milk for strength, then immediately must learn to blend into the massive wave of the herd. This mass reproduction is an incredibly clever survival tactic of nature. By producing a huge number of offspring at once, the herd overwhelms predators. No matter how ferocious lions or leopards may be, they cannot consume this abundant food source, ensuring that the vast majority of the next generation survives to continue the migration of their ancestors. Watching the playful frolics of the young on the green grass, one understands that this arduous migration was never a hopeless escape. It is an epic of undying hope. Those who perished in the Mara River or fell under the claws of lions have completed their mission of purification, making way for a new generation stronger and more resilient. The instinct for survival transformed the weak into a destructive wave, and now it transforms pain into rebirth. The steppe will forever transform. The river of life will forever flow. For as long as the sun rises over the Serengeti, millions of footsteps will continue to pound the earth, writing the immortal story of the power of life. How do you feel about this harsh yet glorious cycle of nature? Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe to join us on our next epic journeys through the wilderness. A hoarse laugh pierced the air. A pack of hyenas emerged from the bushes, snatching their prey right in front of the most proud predator. Will the strength of a single individual be enough to withstand the pack's greed, or will glory be torn apart in blood and dust? A brazen robbery. A pack of hyenas snatch their prey under the scorching Sunday. The African grasslands during the dry season are nothing short of a giant furnace, where life is squeezed dry to the last drop under the brutal heat. Here, every square meter of land is steeped in the scent of survival, and every breeze carries the breath of the hunt. In a world where compassion is a luxury, every creature must learn to fight not only for food, but also to protect what they have sacrificed their lives for. Under the scorching sun of the African savanna, where the air is distorted by the heat, a breathtaking chase ensued. Under the scorching sun of the African savanna, distorted by the heat, the mother leopard had brought down a young impala antelope. Her chest heaved violently, her lungs threatening to burst from lack of oxygen after the deadly race. This was the only food for her hungry cubs in the distant bush. But before the mother leopard could sink her teeth into the prey and drag it into the shade, the darkness of greed descended. The hyena pack, with their incredibly keen sense of smell, detected the blood the moment the antelope fell. They didn't attack the mother leopard immediately. Instead, they lined up, advancing with hoarse, savage laughter, a psychological weapon that would send shivers down the spine of any lone predator. Each hyena coordinated seamlessly to form an overwhelming encirclement. Facing the hyena's bone-crushing teeth, and their numbers tens of them, the mother leopard could only growl in helplessness. She tried to lunge forward to threaten them, but was immediately surrounded by 3 or 4 other hyenas from all sides. organized robbery unfolded under the scorching sun. Under the suffocating pressure of the greedy mob, the mother leopard was forced to retreat, watching her bounty being torn apart in an instant. All her efforts to survive were now just weak resistance in a battle that was inherently unfair. The mother leopard retreated, her amber eyes filled with regret and helplessness as she watched the hyenas furiously tearing apart their prey. She turned and walked towards the distant bushes, where her cubs awaited a feast to sustain their lives. Returning with an empty stomach and weary legs, the mother leopard understood that tonight would be a long night of groans of hunger. The solitary figure of the cheetah mother in the vast grassland contrasts sharply with the crunching of bones and the full bellies of the hyena pack behind her, creating a tragic, somber note in the symphony of survival. Why would the hyenas so brazenly steal the fruits of a professional predator's labor? The answer lies in the cruelty and calculation of these animals. Hyenas don't just win by strength, they win by overwhelming numbers. Although the cheetah is the king of speed, after a terrifying burst of speed, its body overheats and becomes completely exhausted, needing at least 20 to 30 minutes to recover. In that weakest state, it cannot confront a large and aggressive army of hyenas. Furthermore, the cheetah is a mother nursing her cubs. Maternal instinct tells her that a meal can be recovered, but if she is injured or dies in the fight with the hyenas, her cubs will surely perish. Conversely, hyenas possess the strongest jaws of any African mammal, capable of crushing even the hardest bones. Their reckless nature and tenacity make even lions and leopards wary of confrontations. Under the scorching sun, the hyenas were not just stealing a piece of prey, they were affirming a cruel truth of the Serengeti. Hard work and talent sometimes have to bow before the unity of opportunists. However, the cycle of struggle did not end there. As the hyenas were busy tearing apart the impala antelope with triumphant laughter, a huge dark shadow loomed out from the shade of the ancient acacia tree. It was a male leopard, a lone killer with formidable muscular strength. If cheetahs are the embodiment of speed, then leopards are the symbol of brutal strength and cunning. Its appearance immediately disrupted the order of the ongoing robbery. Hyenas may have overwhelmed cheetahs with numbers, but before an enraged leopard, they were forced to reconsider their strategy. And suddenly, the leopard charged into the midst of the pack with deadly composure. Its powerful blows and strong teeth forced the hyenas to scatter. A new melee erupted right on the carcass of its unfortunate prey. In a cruel twist of nature, the hyenas, who had just brazenly stolen the leopard's hard work, were now the victims of another, far more intense and brutal robbery. But the leopard chose not to waste its energy in a pointless struggle. With extraordinary strength, it clamped down on the carcass and quickly dragged it up to a towering branch, an impenetrable fortress that the hyena's teeth below would never reach. At the base of the tree, the hyenas could only look up in utter frustration and helplessness. In the distance, the mother leopard silently observed the battle between the strong, with her melancholic amber eyes. It slowly turned its back and walked away, leaving behind a costly lesson about the twists and turns of fate in Serengeti. In this wild world, the one who possesses the last meal is not necessarily the best hunter, nor the most numerous, but the one who possesses the courage to hold on to it with absolute dominance. But don't mistake hyenas for cowardly plunderers living off the remnants of others. To survive and maintain a large, matriarchal empire, they possess terrifying, solitary and collective hunts that few species can match. Look at the pursuit of a lone female hyena targeting a mature wildebeest. Without the blistering speed of a cheetah, the hyena chooses a physical torture approach. It can maintain a speed of 60 kilometers per hour for miles under the scorching sun. As the prey begins to tire, the hyena doesn't deliver the final bite to the throat. Instead, it begins to tear at the flesh from the hind legs and belly of its prey while it is still running. This is a cruel dance of persistence. The prey does not die from a single bite, but slowly from blood loss and extreme exhaustion. The hyena's ability to undertake such sustained expeditions is due to a perfectly designed biological apparatus. The hyena's heart is twice the size of that of other animals of similar size. This allows oxygen to be continuously pumped to the muscles, making them the greatest marathon runners of the Serengeti. Furthermore, the hyena's intelligence is considered on par with some primate species. In problem-solving tests, hyenas coordinate better than chimpanzees. They know how to distract the alpha lion so that others can sneak in and steal the carcass, and how to use the terrain to corner prey in swamps. Returning to the tree where the leopard is enjoying its feast, this is proof that the hyena pack below's patience is not a hopeless wait. In hyena culture, retreat is merely a stepping stone to another attack. They are the key to survival. Never giving up, never wasting, and always ready to turn the suffering of others into their own strength. The throne on the savanna is never permanent, and the prey in someone else's mouth today may belong to another tomorrow. How do you feel about the leopard's spectacular comeback? Is it fairness or just another layer of cruelty? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to avoid missing the most breathtaking survival videos. Thank you for joining us. See you on the next journey.